So we talked briefly about cat, and if I list out the contents of the working directory, we see that it's empty at this point. But we can create a new file by concatenating it to the file system. So the way we do that is type cat. Now, typically, if we already had a file, we could cat file1 or cat the name of the file, and it would print that file's contents to standard output, in other words, the console. But if we don't already have the file, then we can pipe or actually redirect the input of cat, which is coming from the keyboard, to a file. So let's do that now. And this symbol, the greater than symbol, redirects whatever the input is to the output. Now it'll take the input from my standard input. This is a file. And now if I send the into file marker, it comes back to the prompt. And now if I cat file1, it comes back with that file. I have created file1 inside my working directory. So the greater than symbol redirects from whatever I'm doing, in this case cat, to something else, in this case a file. Now let's talk about another utility, word count. Okay, so if I say WC, this is word count, and then I want the number of words, so -W, and you can look up word count and any other utility if you know the name of it by typing man for manual, WC, and it will give you the manual for word count. We see that word count prints new lines, words, and byte counts for each file, and we can give it these switches. -C is bytes, -M is the character counts, and so on and so forth. So -W gives us the word count, the actual count of words. At the bottom of the manual page, it tells you to hit Q for quit. So let's do that. So if I word count file1 with the number of words, we already know it has 4 words, but I'd like to see that. It tells us 4. That's the number of words. And then it also tells us that the name of the file is file1. Well, suppose I only want that 4. I'm only interested in the 4. I can redirect from file1 into the word count utility. And that's pretty cool. So I can say WC-W for word count, and then send it into from file1. So this takes the input. It takes what normally would be the console. It takes what normally would be this input and sends it into the word count utility. And here we can see I only got what I was interested in, the number of words in the file. So that's pretty cool. So now what if we wanted this number in another file? So let's try something like this, WC-W, and I want to take input from file1, and I want to redirect it to word count. So can I do that? Sure I can. So now if I list, I see that I have a word count file, and if I cat word count to take a look at the contents of that file, I see that that file contains 4. So the greater than and less than symbols allow us to redirect from what would be standard input, standard output, typically. They allow us to redirect to a file or from a file. Now there is another way to get input from one thing to another, and that's called piping. So piping uses this symbol, which is on US keyboards, it is a shift and then the backslash key, but it is a bar or a pipe. So now if I want to take, for example, let's just say that we do a detailed list of the working directory. I can see that there are 2 files, file1 and word count. Well, what if I'm interested in sending that information to a file? Well, I could do that. We already know how to do that, right? So we could make a file called list and do it that way. Now, if we wanted a word count list, so let's do a word count of that list. So we could say WC word, and then, or maybe line count of that list, and then do it that way. So it has 4 lines, and the name of the file is list. I can also pipe in from list or redirect in from list and do it that way, and I would just get 4. Okay, so pretty cool. That just reviews what we've already done. What if, let's say, that I wanted to take that information like LSL and just get the word count? So now I could take that and pipe it to WC-L. And that gives me the same thing without having to create another file. So this command did the same thing as all of this stuff that we did before. In Unix-based systems, in Linux, the key always is typing the fewest characters to get the job done. So this thing that we just did here took the output of ls-l and piped it to the input of word count for lines. And so we can use input redirection like this, we can use output redirection like this, and we can use piping to go from one utility or program to another. Thank you very much.